Peter Pan by James Barrie. Chapter 1. Peter Breaks Through. All children grow up. They know they will grow up. Wendy knew this. One day when she was 2 years old, she was playing in a garden. She picked a flower and ran with it to her mother. Mrs. Darling put her hand on her heart and said, "Oh, why can't you stay like this forever?" From this, Wendy knew she must grow up. You always know after you are 2. 2 is the beginning of the end. Mrs. Darling was a beautiful woman with a sweet mouth. Mr. Darling won Mrs. Darling because he was the first to ask her to marry him. Mrs. Darling married in white. At first she kept the money perfectly, but later she started to draw pictures of babies. She drew them when she should have been working. They were Mrs. Darling's hopes. Wendy came first, then John, then Michael. After Wendy was born, they were not sure if they could keep her, because they needed more money. Mr. Darling was very proud of her, but he was also very careful with money. He sat on Mrs. Darling's bed, holding her hand and adding up costs. She wanted to keep Wendy, but he needed to use a pencil and paper to decide. "Don't talk," he said to her. "I have £1.17 here and 2 and 6 at work. I can stop buying coffee at work. That's 10 more. That makes 2, 9 and 6. With your 18 and 3, that makes 3, 9 and 7. With 5 more from my bank, that's 8, 9 and 7. Who is moving? 8, 9 and 7. Don't talk, my dear. And the pound you gave to that man at the door. Be quiet, child. There, you see. Did I say 9, 9 and 7? Yes, I said 9, 9 and 7. Can we try for a year with 9, 9 and 7? "Yes, we can, George," she said. But she already loved Wendy, and he was really the better person. "Remember illness?" he told her, and continued. "Illness, £1. That's what I wrote, but maybe it will be more. Don't talk. Illness, 1.5. That makes 2.15, 6. Another illness, say 15 more." And so it went, and the total was different each time. But at last Wendy was allowed to stay, with illness cost reduced. It was the same with John, and Michael had an even harder time, but both were kept. Soon, you could see the 3 of them going in a line to Miss Folsom's school, with their nurse. Mrs. Darling liked everything to be just right, and Mr. Darling wanted to be exactly like his neighbours. So they had a nurse. They were not rich, because the children drank a lot of milk. The nurse was a dog called Nana. Nana always thought children were important. The Darlings met her in Kensington Gardens, where she spent her free time watching babies in prams. She became a very good nurse. She was very good at bath time, and got up at any time at night if one of the children made any sound. Her bed was in the children's room. She knew when a cough was important and when it needed a warm cloth. She believed in old ways to help sick people and didn't like new talk about illness. It was amazing to see her taking the children to school, walking next to them when they were good, and pushing them back in line when they were not. On John's sports days, she never forgot his sweater, and she usually carried an umbrella in case of rain. At Miss Folsom's school, there was a room where the nurses waited. They sat on seats, while Nana lay on the floor. The other nurses tried to ignore her, and she didn't like their talk. She didn't like visits from Mrs. Darling's friends, but if they came, she first cleaned Michael and put him in better clothes, and made Wendy and John look good. They were a happy family, until Peter Pan came. Mrs. Darling first heard about Peter when she was cleaning her children's minds. Every good mother does this after her children sleep. If you could stay awake, you would see your mother doing this, and it would be interesting to watch. It's like cleaning drawers. You would see her finding things in your mind, some nice and some not nice. When you wake up in the morning, the bad feelings you had when you went to bed are at the bottom of your mind, and the nice thoughts are on top, ready for you to use. I don't know if you have ever seen a map of a person's mind. Doctors sometimes draw maps of other parts of you. But try to draw a map of a child's mind, which is not only mixed up, but also keeps moving all the time. There are lines on it, like roads on an island. The Netherland is always more or less an island, with amazing colours here and there, and seas and ships and people who live alone, and small men who are mostly makers of clothes, and caves with a river, and princes with 6 older brothers, and a small old woman with a big nose. It would be an easy map if that was all, but there is also first day at school, parents, water, food, getting dressed, money for pulling out your own tooth, and more. Of course the Netherlands are different. John's had a lake with big pink birds flying over it, and John was shooting at them. Michael, who was very small, had a big pink bird with a lake flying over it. John lived in a boat turned over on the sand, Michael in a small house made of cloth, Wendy in a house of leaves. John had no friends, Michael had friends at night, Wendy had a pet wolf whose parents left it. On these magical places, children play on the beaches. Of all the islands, the Netherlands is the best. Not big with long spaces between adventures, but small and full. When you play on it during the day with chairs and clothes, it's not scary, but in the 2 minutes before you sleep, it becomes very real. That's why there are lights at night. Sometimes in her travels through her children's minds, Mrs. Darling found things she did not understand. The most confusing was the word Peter. She didn't know any Peter, but he was in John and Michael's minds, and Wendy's mind was starting to be covered with him. The name was bigger than any other words, and Mrs. Darling thought it looked proud. Yes, he is proud, Wendy said. Her mother had been asking her about him. But who is he, my dear? He is Peter Pan, Mother. At first Mrs. Darling didn't know, but then she remembered from when she was a child, a Peter Pan, who lived with small magical people. There were strange stories about him. When children died, he went part of the way with them, so they would not be afraid. She had believed in him then, but now that she was married and smart, she didn't believe he was real. Also, she said to Wendy, he would be grown up by now. Oh no, he isn't grown up, Wendy said. And he is the same size as me. She meant he was her size in both mind and body. She didn't know how she knew, she just knew. Mrs. Darling asked Mr. Darling, but he smiled and said, wasn't important. I think, he said. It's just something Nana put in their minds. It's the kind of idea a dog would have. Leave it alone, and it will go away. But it didn't go away, and soon the boy gave Mrs. Darling a big surprise. Children have strange adventures, and are not worried by them. For example, they might tell you, a week after it happened, that when they were in the woods, they met their dead father and played with him. It was like this, that Wendy one morning said something worrying. Some leaves from a tree were found on the children's room floor, which were not there when the children went to bed. Mrs. Darling was looking at them when Wendy said, with a smile, I think it is Peter again. What do you mean, Wendy? It's not good of him not to clean his feet. Wendy said, with a small breath. She was a clean child. She explained that she thought Peter sometimes came to the children's room at night and sat on the end of her bed and played music to her. She never woke up, so she didn't know how she knew. She just knew. What you say is not true, dear. No one can get into the house without knocking. I think he comes in by the window, she said. My dear, it's 3 floors up. With the leaves at the window, Mother. It was true. The leaves were found very near the window. Mrs. Darling didn't know what to think, because it all seemed so normal to Wendy that you couldn't say she was just dreaming. My child, the mother said. Why didn't you tell me this before? I forgot, said Wendy. She was in a hurry to get her food. Oh, she must have been dreaming. There were the leaves. Mrs. Darling looked at them very carefully. They were not from any tree in England. She moved around the floor, looking for marks of strange feet. She made noise in the fireplace and hit the walls. She put something down from the window to the ground, and it was 30 feet down, with nothing to climb up. Wendy must have been dreaming. But Wendy had not been dreaming, as the next night showed, the night when the amazing adventures of these children began. On the night we talk about, all the children were in bed. Mrs. Darling had given them a bath and sung to them until one by one they had fallen asleep. They all looked so safe and comfortable that she smiled at her fears and sat down by the fire to work. After a couple of minutes, she also fell asleep. While she slept, she had a dream. She dreamed that the Neverland had come too near and that a strange boy had come through from it. The dream alone would not have been important, but while she was dreaming, the window of the children's room opened and a boy did drop on the floor. He had a strange light with him, no bigger than your hand, which moved around the room like it was alive, and I think it must have been this light that woke Mrs. Darling. She got up with a sound and saw the boy, and somehow she knew at once that he was Peter Pan. He was a beautiful boy, dressed in leaves and tree juice, but the most amazing thing about him was that he had all his first teeth. When he saw she was a grown-up, he showed his teeth at her